Greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, a Life of Peace community. Thank you so much for gathering with us today. My name is T. Luna, and I am a multi-graduate of a Life of Peace Wellness Institute, and I have the honor of interviewing our beloved founder, instructor, mentor, guide, Dr. Akua Gray. I don't think she needs much introduction, but please welcome Dr.
Oh, thank
Akua.
you. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings.
All right, so it's so exciting to be here today to interview you. I don't know how if you've ever been interviewed for the organization before, but I'm so grateful to be the one to do so.
Well, not at a 20-year anniversary.
Well, there you go. There you go. So that's what we're here to celebrate. A Life of Peace has turned 20 years this year in 2026. And so therefore that means you started this in in 2006. So I'd like to
Right.
open our interview today. Take us back to before 2006 when you were just dreaming this up. What was your life like, and what moments or experiences made you realize that you were being called to this work?
Oh, that's a really good question. Um, I've been a Pan-Africanist since I was 12 years old, and many of my teachings in Pan-Africanism also involved ways of natural health, good things to eat. And so the very first um, certification that I received in naturopathy was as an herbalist. So I would say 10 years before that, I was already an herbalist. And when I say an herbalist, I was a family herbalist. So all of my herbal remedies was working with my children, um, and making sure that they stayed healthy. And one of the reasons that sparked my whole existence into naturopathy and herbalism was my mother being sick. And so, as the last child, I was the one that went to doctor's appointments and things with her. And I heard doctors telling her what to eat, what not to eat. And, I had already taken on some of the things that I was learning from the cultural side of my community. But of course, you can't tell your mama what to eat. So, I just stood by. But when my mother passed away, it devastated me. And I knew that I did not want to leave my children at an early age like my mother left us. So, therefore, it really propelled my journey into natural living, into wellness. I also had a brother that was a part of the Nation of Islam. So he was into the how to eat to live. And of course, me being his little sister, he was teaching me also, about how to eat to live. And so I had that combination of culture, that combination of my brother's influence, and then the devastation of my mother not being here and me not wanting to repeat that cycle of illness in my family. So that was like my beginning. So, like I said, the first thing I did is I became an herbalist. And after I got out of college, I decided that I wanted to join a Pan African organization so that my children can grow up in a more affirming, and I had all sons. So I wanted them to grow up in a more affirming culturally environment. So within that organization, we also had what we call the macrobiotic diet. And so that even enriched all of the knowledge that I had thus far. And that is one of the things that propelled me into vegetarianism and then into veganism. So it has just been a continuous thing. And so even in that organization, I was referred to as Mother Africa because I was all about natural things. And so after I got out of college, I went into corporate America for about a good 3 years. And then I was like, this is not for me. I was in communications, and I was a human resources director. And I said, no, I got to do something for my people. So I went into a teacher certification program because I wanted to work with inner city youth in education. So I went into education. And so all the while, I'm still going through my stages of learning naturopathy, taking classes, becoming a Reiki master. And so in 2006, I became friends with a wonderful young lady that really inspired a lot of my journey as a wellness education organization. Okay. And I don't have permission to mention names, so I'm going to leave that out. Um, but anyway, when we started as a business, so to speak, and we inspired each other to um, take the skills that we had because she had gone to naturopathy school also. And we wanted to be able to begin to teach women, and that was our first primary goal, was to be able to teach women the things that we knew. So we were developing women's programs, and we were developing wellness programs, and we were inspired by some of our greats like Dr. Africa and Queen Afua and Dr. Jewel Pookrum and Dr. Paul Goss and the Carolyn Mayses and the Louise Hayeses and all of those people, the Deepak Chopras. We were inspired by them. And one of the things that I noticed is that out of all of these people, okay, they would come into our communities. And then some of those people didn't even come to our communities, but they would come into the community, they would give a lecture, and then they were gone. And that was like the end of the wellness education for women and families in our communities. So we sat down and we brainstormed, and we were like, okay, we've got to do something different. We have to do something where there is a consistent offering of wellness education for not only our generation, but the generations after us, the generation after us, etc. So we decided that we would create a business. Now, within that framework, I knew that a lot of the people that I dealt with in terms of the healing work that I was doing that had expanded from family into the community, they couldn't afford anything expensive. So I decided that a life of peace would turn from a business to a nonprofit organization so that we could offer affordable, quality wellness education for all of those seekers out there that were ready to improve their lives and the lives of their family. So that was like, what I was doing before, all the way up to the founding of it. And it's just been a wonderful journey because when I first started this work, I asked for seekers. And there has never been a person that I had to beat this information in their head because that's not what I asked for. I asked for those who were ready because I knew within my heart and within my spirit that I was ready to give this type of love to my community.
And we are grateful for it as I came, like, I guess a decade or so after all of this, I was seeking. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. So, now you talked about how you were inspired by the needs of your community to establish a nonprofit structure, which is beautiful, and I'm sure it resonates with many of us. So, what did li a life of peace look like in that first year? Where were you teaching? Were you already just throwing everything you had in? Did you start off with herbalism? What were the interests of those first students and, all the many things that you were offering? Where did you start as like your core resources?
Okay, two areas um, where we started, and then we went on to the big area. Okay, so the first area was eating natural foods. So back in 2006, I wrote my first book, which was called Veggie Delights. And I started teaching classes for people to learn how to prepare healthy foods. That was first in a life of peace. Then, second, I was already a Reiki master by then as well. And after becoming a Reiki master, I wanted to then share that art of energy healing with the community as well. So then I started teaching Reiki. So Reiki and natural foods were the very first classes that A Life of Peace embarked upon. Now, also, we decided, okay, if we're going to take this organization national, we need a public face. So what we did is we called up, and we were so fortunate to be able to work with Dr. Laila Africa. We called him up and we said, we know that you have this natural, this African holistic health certification, is what it was called back then. And so the African Holistic Health Certification, we asked him if we could gather groups of people in different cities, and he would come in under the name of our organization to teach these classes in the community. And to our surprise, he said yes. And that work with Dr. Africa for 4 years straight, from 2006 all the way to 2010, really propelled A Life of Peace into the national community. So that was a very wonderful start for us. So in that very first year, we were teaching um, natural foods classes, we were teaching Reiki, and we were teaching naturopathy through Dr. Africa. And so we went to cities, to all of the major cities like Miami, Los Angeles, um, Cincinnati, Ohio. We went to the Chicagos, the Atlantas, the Washington, D.C.s, the New York City, New Yorks, the Buffalo, New Yorks, the Detroits. We went to all of the major cities, and literally I was on a plane because the partner that I was working with at the time, she had a really large family, so she couldn't travel as much as I did. So literally every week I was on a plane in a different city, 4 years straight, promoting the A Life of Peace classes. And that was a very, very good start. It was a lot of hard work. And it was a lot of late nights,
Yeah.
but that is those first, I would say those first 10 years is what really propelled us into um, being a national and an international organization, because we also went to Toronto, Canada. Okay, so then people were talking and they started reaching out and saying, okay, when are you coming to Belize? When are you coming to the Bahamas? You know, and so we started going out to those places as well. So that's what the first few years of A Life of Peace was like. We were so very fortunate to have an elder who worked with us and trained us and helped us to understand what wellness education was like in our communities.
I love that. I didn't know that. I love that. So great. All right. So, you spoke of those first really, those first 4 years, and sounds like you were really like grinding, and I love that. And so, what did it look like from those first initial, like maybe about 10 years or so? So you by that time, it seems like after having that initiation in a way, right, from Dr. Layla Africa, then you were inspired to create the Natural Health and Wellness Consultant certification, which I am a graduate of. And so I'm really grateful for that. And so then that became your initial signature program. How did that come about? How did you develop that curriculum? Was it inspired by all that you had been learning over those initial few years of having Dr. Layla Africa teach those classes?
Right. It was definitely inspired by that. Um, and I also added in a lot of things that were not being taught in Dr. Africa's class because I saw the need for people to really take detoxing to a very to the next level in terms of our understanding of the benefits of detoxing in our community. So I created programs like detox therapy and showing that detox is should be a lifelong thing and not just something that you do, and that detoxing doesn't have to be strenuous and hard and and make you feel miserable or anything like that. That detoxing could actually feel good. So that's where the therapy part comes in. I wish I would have coined that term a while ago, but now it's thrown around loosely by a whole lot of people. There's even someone on IG that's called the detox therapist. I was like, cool. But anyway, that aside. So then I developed classes like detox therapy, went into more classes dealing with touch therapies like reflexology, um, shiatsu, um, adding in more of the therapeutic components of naturopathy, and then also getting into more of the biochemistry testing of naturopathy. And just and dealing more with specialized health practices in naturopathy, such as focusing on men's health, focusing on naturopathic pediatrics, focusing on naturopathic geriatrics, because each one of those areas, including women's health, has specific health needs that were not specifically being talked about in our communities. So just adding all of those components. And with naturopathy and as big as nature is, I don't think that we can ever teach it all. So even right now today, I'm still adding components on of things that I'm still learning. And it's just a continuous journey. So that first program, yes, it was influenced by all of the wellness providers that I had worked with. It was influenced by Dr. Goss. It was influenced by Queen Afua. It was influenced by Dr. Laila Africa. It was influenced by Carol Mays. It was influenced by Louise Hayes. Those. It was influenced by Deepak Chopra, all of those people that I had gathered information from and was living within for myself and my family was influenced in creating the Natural Health and Wellness Consultant certification.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. And I mean, having gone through the program and completed it, and it wasn't easy. So people want but it was so life-giving. It was worth doing, and it really did. I would say it changed and inspired everything about how I see life, after going through that and really pushing myself to see all those components that you just mentioned and what inspired you. And really having the full, like you said, the full family, the full community in mind in
Right.
wellness work, not just thinking that wellness work is just about adults who have, who like all of a sudden ruin their health and now they want to get healed, but like actually how you work through that from infancy, from conception, infancy, into geriatric age and all of that. So such beautiful work. And so with that being said, what you mentioned that you're continuing to learn, is that what inspired the NMAC program? Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Now, I have to give the NMAC credit to one student.
Okay.
There was this young man, and I wish I could remember his name, but he came to me. He was from New York, and he came to me as a natural health and wellness student. And he started surveying all of the different classes. And so, in a conversation that we had one day, he said, Dr. Kua, I want to take all your classes. He said, do you have a program where I can take all your classes? Hey, I never thought about that. So, at the time, I was also working with my marketing director. And he was coaching me about having certain types of classes to help get the word out in the community. And so, having that influence from my marketing person, and then also this request from this student that was so genuinely interested, he was even interested in the doula class. And he said, I want to take everything. So, I sat down and I put it all together and I said, how could I make this a full program to where students who have that desire, like this young man, can take every single one of my classes? And that was the birth of the Naturopathic Mastery Associate Certification. And then once that certification got out on the market, it influenced more than just students. It also influenced other naturopathic organizations because I started getting calls from institutions that accreditate, and they were saying, where have you been? Why haven't we known about your programs? And, I got invited to be on boards of organizations, and that program has now become a board certification program where students can actually have a non-exam board certification or either an exam board certification if they want to have even greater credentials other than just their certificate for it. So it is an actual registered associate certification program through the state of Texas, okay, which is where A Life of Peace is registered. And so those that want to be board certified, they can take that 2-year program as an associate diploma and use it for naturopathy. Now, another great thing about the NMAC program is that most of the 4-year colleges in naturopathy will take your transcript from A Life of Peace and give you credit for some of your courses if you decide to go on to the 4-year doctorate programs. So that's like a plus plus. So that student, oh, I wish I could think of his name.
Yeah.
But he is the one that influenced me to sit down and really put together that 2-year associate certification.
And
Yeah,
did he do it?
he didn't do it.
Oh. After all of that, he was just there to inspire you. That's what that was.
Yes, he did. He did a little bit, but life happens. Life
Yeah, it's a
happens.
lot. Well, he
And
was like, maybe I bit off more than I can chew because these
right, right,
classes
because
are
it's a
really
lot. Yes.
yeah. I remember when I first saw the email for that, and I was in the middle of completing my program, and I had done the clinician training, and then I started the consultant training first. And then I was like, okay, I took the clinician training in between me starting the consultant training, and then you dropped that, and I was like, I want to do all this. And I remember being like, you know what? Let me just finish the thing I started, but it has been such an honor and now I get to teach some of these amazing classes and I get to see the breadth of it all. And I'm like, wow, it's so amazing. So thank you to that man. We don't know who you are. We forgot, but we thank you. We did not forget. So um
Look, I'm gonna have to look up his name. I'm gonna have
I
to. I'm gonna have to write him in the history for sure.
Exactly. And we need
Yeah.
to send him a direct email. Hey, brother, you inspired this, so let's talk. Like, but yes, it's amazing. It's so great how life gives you those opportunities, and you were ready to respond to it because you didn't have to. And then look how it opened up so much. Otherwise, so good. All right, so we have spoken a bit about all that has inspired and all the work that you've done all over, especially the first component, the first part of your career in a life of peace. And so at some point, you moved to you moved to Ghana at some point, right? And then you also started bringing your educational opportunities here to Ghana, which is amazing. And so what was that like when you first said, well, you mentioned that y'all had already been doing some traveling with with the Institute. But what made you say, okay, I'm gonna bring the Institute to Ghana to host these courses? And then what did that first time look like? And, what did having students here in Ghana look like for you?
Well, as a Pan-Africanist, I always knew that I would live in Africa. And so when my last son graduated from high school, I was like, bye. Okay, I've done what I needed to do here. And so then I moved to Ghana. And of course, I went to teaching classes online. And then I was bicontinental. So even though I lived here in Ghana, I would also go back to the US and teach classes. So I was 6 months in Ghana, 6 months in the US, and I would go back. And I did that from 2009 to 2011. So for about 2 years, I was consistently going back and forth. Then in 2012, 2012. No, no, no. Let me take that back. I did it until 2013 because in 2013 is when my granddaughter was born. Okay. And she is the one that really, you know, made me stop and say, okay, I need to, be around this little girl, as she's growing up and really, be a part of her life because I raised three sons. And then when you get a granddaughter, oh, whew, that's like mwah, special, special. So she was my little special one. So then when she was born in 2013, I decided that I needed to just settle down. And before, I would always come to Ghana in the wintertime because I wanted to escape the cold. And I know some people say, well, Texas is not cold, but I didn't want to experience another cold day in my life after I moved here and saw this beautiful weather all year round. So, when I first started coming here, students started asking, oh, can I come and visit you in Ghana? Can I come and take classes in Ghana? So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's another calling. So also when I got here to Ghana and then it got in the wind that I was here actually living in Ghana, then people started asking me to come to TV interviews and to teach classes here. And so it's like Ghana was just waiting. It was just waiting for a life of peace to come. And I think that students in America like being able to get out of America and come to the continent with a purpose. And that purpose is enriching themselves through wellness education training, and then also enriching themselves by, connecting with the motherland. So those first years, I started off in Ghana teaching natural health and wellness certification. Those were my first classes here. And there are still some students right now today that took those first few classes that are still working as naturopathic doctors here in Ghana. And it's a beautiful thing to know that. And then I also had the clinician classes that were being taught here. And that first clinician class had one student. And she came all the way and she spent the whole 2 weeks with me. It was just me and her going around and taking the classes, doing herb walks, making herbs and all of those good things that we do inside of the clinician training. And it hasn't stopped since then. So from 2011 all the way up to 2026, we are still offering classes here in Ghana for those that want to come to the motherland and work with us here and learn and really get to know, what Africa is like. And Ghana is a wonderful place to start that journey. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so that's where we are. That's the connection. All I can say is that Africa was ready because it's been nonstop ever since. Sometimes large classes, sometimes small classes, but it's been consistent.
That's true. We hungry. I mean, I know that was one thing that I thought was so beautiful and inspirational, and to have the opportunity to, be a part of that as well. Getting to teach students here has been very beautiful. And so you mentioned that you started the first class with one student, but now you've trained, thousands of students, and you have, students from all across not only the country in the US, but globally, so many countries throughout the world. And so with having that many students out there in the world that you've been able to share your wisdom with, what makes you most proud?
I can't even say that I'm proud.
Okay. Hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because I have a way of ending each one of my classes. And I think this will answer your question.
Hmm.
I say to my students at the end of every class, I thank you for allowing me to share this peace knowledge with you. And I say that from the very depths of my soul, because if the seekers had not come, then there would be no a life of peace. So I think I like to use the word motivated instead of proud. My students motivate me to do more, to be more, to learn more so that I can continue to share more. So I think I'm most motivated by my students. And I have seen, I've had students in Guam, the Philippines, Japan, Germany, Paris, the UK. And I have seen them flourish into just beautiful healers in their community. And that is my motivation. So if you want to call it being proud, okay. But to me, it doesn't seem like pride. It just seems like that that energetic frequency that just keeps me going, that just keeps me driving. And that's what I love most. Yeah.
I, I hear that. It's like it's the inspiration that continues, to keep living out your purpose. I find that has been a shared experience. So, you had the opportunity, which again is kind of surprising, that you continue to be a forerunner of educational expansion, both in the States and here in the motherland, right? And so in 2016 you launched the holistic doula certification in the States, and the doula house program, and then you later did the same here in Ghana. Why was maternal health and birth wellness important for you to build another doula training and, around holistic education?
Well, like I said in the very beginning, I wanted to focus on helping mothers, helping women to be more conscious and more enlightened about natural wellness. That was part of the beginning mission of a life of peace. And of course, to make it affordable. Um, I had some clients of mine because also working as a naturopath all of these years in alignment with teaching. Um, I had some clients of mine that came to me and asked me to birth their children. And I didn't know anything about birthing except for, me going through my own births. And so what I realized after I began to study um, doula, and I also began to study midwifery, and I said to myself, it is absolutely criminal that we can learn naturopathy and it not include birth. And I said, okay, that's not going to be a part of a life of peace. We're going to encompass everything because one of the most natural things that a woman can do is give birth. So I knew that the doula profession was out there. And after I did my research on it, I found that there was no doula programs that were coming from a naturopathic cultural point of view. Let me just put it like that. So they were coming from a very sterile, work with the doctors kind of point of view. Those were the type of big organizations that were out there at that time. Okay. And so when I studied um, um, midwifery, I went through an organization that had some cultural sense to it. Okay. And then I said, a lot of women are not going to have the money and they're not going to have the time to all become midwives. So, therefore, another aspect of maternal health that we can add to teaching our community is doula, but teaching it from a holistic point of view. Okay. Teaching it from a point of view where you take into consideration not just mom being comfortable in birth, not just staying in your place when you're working in the hospital, but also being able to understand how to support mother and family from a mental, physical, emotional, and a spiritual point of view. Not a religious point of view, but a spiritual point of view. So that is how the Holistic Doula program developed. And the Holistic Doula program is not based on any other program. It is pure This is what I know my people need point of view that the holistic doula program comes from. They need to know about good nutrition. They need to know about energy medicine. They need to know about how to deal with some of the dysfunctional things that we have going on in our community and that mothers go through in their relationships. Okay. So, that whole aspect of the holistic doula training, um, I have found, I have made it unique in a naturopathic kind of way. And, of course, breastfeeding, that's something that, anybody can teach it. But when you teach breastfeeding from a nurturing point of view and a motivation point of view, that adds a little something different to it. And it's just been a consistent and wonderful offering to the community. And we have trained, I think, just shy of about 300 doulas over the last 10 years, about just shy of about 300 doulas. Yeah, because I think we're at about 270 something now. Yeah. So that program continues to be a favorite in the community too. And then being able to offer it here in Ghana with you by my side, it has just even flourished more in terms of the experience that students have when they actually come to Ghana and work with us here. And they really get a chance to see what natural birthing is really like, even when natural birthing takes place in a hospital, you see. And they get to also experience how mothers who don't have that loving care experience really appreciate them. So, if I could have every one of the doulas that trains with a life of peace to come to Ghana and experience working with the communities here, I would definitely require that. But, everybody can't get here. So it's been a wonderful journey in terms of maternal health. Yes.
We thank you for it. I mean, it's truly revolutionary, and what you said is so, it's accurate. No, nobody could take that from you because, not only as somebody who's taken multiple doula trainings, I'm like, oh, this is different, and so to have the opportunity to teach from that as well, and then also, as you mentioned, allow people to come here and be a part of that supervision of their experience, because it's not an easy one, to see that, but that global, and for lack of a better term, like mission birth work is very important for people to actually have that view, that real life understanding of what maternal and infant wellness is and what it looks like everywhere, and that what people are really fighting for. And I don't know if you know this or not, but people who ask me like, how did you stay in Ghana? It was my experience, of coming here, of attending births with through a life of peace, and it changed my life in so many ways, as you know, but in so many ways that it really changed my life at the moment that I witnessed and held space for a mother birthing here. I knew I couldn't turn away from it. So it's truly life changing. We
Mhm.
thank we thank Okay, okay. We only have a few more questions, so thank you so much for, sharing so much with us. And I just am just eating this up. I'm sure all your other previous students, current students, and colleagues will really enjoy this interview and deep dive with you today. All right, so let's get to some of this really inspirational worldwide nitty-gritty of your literature. You have written so many books phenomenally, many of which before I even knew you, and so before you knew me, I read cover to cover. So, so I want to know more about that. You are you've written so many books, you've continued to write so many more. I know that you're always writing. I know that you're always birthing something new into the world. So which of your, I know this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Okay. So which of your writings do you hope that people are still reading and referencing 50 years from now?
Everything. That's an easy question.
I love it.
Everything.
I love it. Yeah.
And I think that because the truth of naturopathy is truth,
Yeah.
it is. And to be able to learn a truth that will help you to extend the longevity of your life, to take care of yourself in a world that has so many obstacles to good health.
Hmm.
I think that being able to write books where seekers will have access, because look at us, we're still reading the mucusless diet
Yeah. Yeah.
from
Hmm.
the early 20th century.
Hmm.
We're still reading Dr. Africa's books.
Hmm.
We are still reading Queen Afua's books. We
Hmm.
are still reading, oh my goodness, Gabriel Kosey's books. So that in the importance of us passing on this knowledge of naturopathy from our point of view in our generation is very important. Okay. And if you go back and you look at even books like okay, so let's look at some of the masters in naturopathic writing. Okay. And that would be people like Deepak Chopra. He has written dozens of books. And one that comes to mind, which is like a master in writing for health from a comedic point of view, is Dr. Muata Ashby.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
when you think of how they have taken ancient wisdom
Yeah.
and brought it down into our generations and the generation after us, because I think you would be in my son's generations, um, and generations after us. And then now we're getting into the next generation of our grandchildren. And so, us being able to have learned from that ancient wisdom knowledge from our elders, and then to write and reference, and then write from our point of view of how we experience it in our generation. And then one day people will refer to our books in naturopathy 2, 3, 4, 5 generations down the
Hmm.
line. So that's one thing that I encourage everyone in naturopathy to do, especially if you're serious about this work. Write your books.
Hmm.
Write your books. And I think when I look at our immediate community, um, because I've written 18 books in on natural health and wellness, and vegan foods and relationships and affirmations. Um, I think that I've probably written the most books within my generation
Yeah. Yep.
in terms of naturopathy and wellness. I think I've written pretty much more books in my generation, not the generations before or after, but within my generation, within our immediate community. And it's so important. It is,
Hmm.
I cannot stress that more. Every time I run across a young naturopath that influences me and lets me know that they're really serious about this work, I tell them, put it in writing. Put it
Hmm.
in writing. When I see those fresh ideas coming through the students and, them coming into tapping into their inner wisdom, where they're acquiring knowledge from within and not just something that somebody taught them,
Hmm.
write it down, because those are the kinds of things that future generations are going to need to know about. And it can literally now be there forever because it's
Mhm.
digital.
Mhm.
So not only writing the books for paper books, but writing the books for ebooks, writing the books for audiobooks, writing the books. So it's going to always be there because now it's digital. And that's an advantage that we have in our generation that our forefathers and those that wrote decades and decades and decades ago that are now gone, they didn't have that
Mhm.
advantage being digital. But now we have that advantage, and it's so very important. So, I think that we should just keep writing. And I
Yeah.
don't see any end to my writing in sight. I think I'm probably going to be like all of the rest of the great wellness writers. I'm just going to keep writing till the end
Mhm.
because it's still so much to write about.
Yes,
And it's
it's
a
true.
beautiful thing. Absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
true.
So the A Life of Peace Wellness series, which is the manuals and training guides for every single class that we have, those will be available. They are Some of them are available, and they will be available for not only us but for future generations as well too. Yeah.
They are truly manuals and in their own right, like Bible. They always say sacred text, let's say,
Mhm.
so it's so good. So thank you. Yeah, inspirational. All right. Okay. So now that you are here, we're here together again to celebrate 20 years of your dedication to wellness, to your community as a Pan-Africanist, to your diligence and your you know, the work that you've done, because along this way you've had to continue to go through life. You've had to raise children. You've had to go through and so much go through different positions in your life. You said you had other careers, but you were continuing this work alongside it. You've moved across continents. You've done so much. So I hope that you sit with that, and you're going to continue to do so much, and I know that. And so looking forward to the future. You've already said that the future will continue to be impacted by the work that you've done and that you will continue to do, and the work that the rest of us will continue to do, because we are inspired by yours and our elders, right? So, in the next 20 years, what would you like to be celebrating? When A Life of Peace turns 40, what do you hope and what do you envision for this organization? And who might be leading it? Will you still be out here teaching classes? Like, what does that look like for you?
Look, I've already been trying to go somewhere and sit down.
I know.
But one thing that I have learned from history of great organizations is that sometimes when, especially in our community, when the founder steps down or either the founder passes on, there's always some kind of transition. And it's a very slim chance of that organization surviving or that organization being a part of history. I would love for A Life of Peace to continue for the next 100 years. Okay. Um, and I would like to be able to hand over the organization to um, young people that are ready to lead the organization and to move it forward through the next 20 years. I would love to pass it on. You know, a part of my reality is, I know that in some organizations, some of us, we would always want our children to take over. But, sometimes that's not the reality of our organizations because, our children have their own lives. Um, But yeah, I would definitely love to see young people take it over, move forward with it, keeping in intact the spirit of why the organization was founded, and to be able to make sure that it remains a consistent wellness learning platform for those who can afford, those who cannot afford, and those that need this kind of wellness training for themselves, for their families. Um, of course, I would also want to continue to support whoever, takes over the organization. I would love to continue to support. Um, but I have seen some um, wellness providers in our community just disappear. They just disappear. And then we look around, it's like, where they at? Well, I don't want to just disappear like that. I want to be able to be able to introduce the next generation. So, once I get that in place and know that it's solid, then I will definitely hand over the reins and just kind of, okay, I'm on the beach chilling somewhere in Bali or Ghana, and they can call me if they need something, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I would love to see a life of peace move forward with the next generation of leaders, um, when it comes to, you know, moving forward. Yeah, it would be an awesome dream come true to see young people take a life of peace into the future. Yeah.
Well, you're already making that impact. And what do you, I'm gonna add a just to go with that. Um, why do you feel that, you mentioned sometimes people um have certain expectations, like you said, of family and all of that, and how that doesn't allow for their longevity. What do you feel is inspiring you to allow young people that you trust to move forward versus like how some people might have hold on. You're saying, I wanna be on the beach and I call you, where some people are like, no, I have to be this until the end, as you said, like until the end. Why do you feel so inspired to trust the people that you've guided along this journey?
Because I think that it's better to coach from the sidelines, because when people step into any kind of position, there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be ways, things that they don't understand or things that they might need assistance with. And I think that it's better to be on hand to watch your predecessors flourish, as opposed to, just like you said, hanging on until the bitter end. Because there's a time and a season for everything. And just based on my own spiritual journey, I know that there are aspects of my spiritual journey that I am moving into that I'm going to need to spend more time on. And so, just in terms of my own spiritual elevation, I want to be able to say, this is a part of what I did for humanity. And after I did that part for humanity, then I moved into this part of myself for humanity. So I think that I'm reaching that plateau, okay, where I've brought a life of peace into 20 years of its making. People know it, It's tapping, and I'm really happy to see that it's tapping into the younger generation, because there are students that are coming in that are in their 20s, just turning 18, that are taking some of the small classes, like the Reiki classes and the detox classes, and getting themselves prepared to go into the more um, strenuous classes like the naturopath trainings. So I'm really happy to see that it's already tapping into the generation of my grandchildren, you see, and that is a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, just being able to move from where it is and letting the next generation take it to the next level. I'm 100% for that.
Well, amazing. And that I think alone allows your legacy, because that's what I kept hearing. Well, your legacy, people don't want to like think about legacy, right? And they're like, if it's not me, then it's whatever, but I think understanding that you're planting seeds for the future is about legacy. So I hear that, and that resonates so deeply. I'm sure it resonates with those listening. All right. So as we're coming to a close, I have one final question, and it really is bridging off of what you just said, that we are constantly having students come, and the younger and younger. And so for someone listening who feels that they're calling, the calling to a wellness education or certification or work as their lifestyle, but they don't know where to begin, what is your message to them? You've started this from such a young age, and some of us don't start till much later in life, and so where do you advise them to begin?
Hmm. Okay, now that is a hard question. So I would say follow your spirit, you know. If your spirit is drawing you towards music, then take a sound healing class. If your spirit is drawing you towards children, then become a holistic doula. Follow your spirit's calling, because our inner wisdom and our spirits are always talking to us. And sometimes we may not hear it. There are some students that have come through the institution and all they want is herbal training. That's it. That's all they want. They're not interested in the therapies or anything like that. They just want to get in touch with Mother Earth because that's their calling. So I say, yeah, go with your calling. And if your calling leads you to a life of peace, we got you.
There's definitely something for everyone at a life of peace. So, all right, thank you so much. We are at our end of our interview, our conversation, our dialogue. And I'm so grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your wisdom. I'm grateful for you answering your calling, because it was a part of, you know, me coming along at some point and being able to answer mine. And so, thank you so much for that. Thank you all for all that you've shared with us, for all that you've lived and continue to live. And so we celebrate you. We celebrate a life of peace, 20 years. And so we are so excited for the next 20 more.
Yay! Thank you so
Well,
much for being
thank
with me today. I appreciate all that you do.
Well, it's an honor. All right, we're going to go ahead and close, and so y'all can catch this on our YouTube channel. You will see this, and this is a living video, and so please come back and come in and take in some of these gems, take notes, sit with it, listen to it. So much has been shared, so we thank you for your time, and we wish you all an amazing day and amazing rest of your year. And please do continue to look out for all that we have for the 20-year celebration.
Peace and
right.
blessings. Hetep.